I think the problem that we've had is that we have people decided they didn't really want to work so much anymore through COVID, and that has had a massive issue on productivity. Tradies have definitely pulled back on productivity. They have been paid a lot to do not too much in the last few years, and we need to see that change. We need to see unemployment rise. Unemployment has to jump 40-50% in my view. We need to see pain in the economy. We need to remind people that they work for the employer, not the other way around.
Steve, is full employment a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I suppose it depends what full employment is. I mean, it's obviously quite low single-digit percentages. I doubt it's ever going to be zero. Look, I think that I'm a huge believer in the dignity of work, and everyone deserves a job. That being said, I have a lot of sympathy for what Tim Gurner said. I have a lot of sympathy for it. I've often lamented with some of those same thoughts myself. Now, that being said, I employ some amazing people. We've got about young people. We have an amazing young man in our business here now, Jake. He started in the army, did 9 years in the army. So that doesn't tend to reward people slacking off. And then there's the absolute lazy buggers that you find as well. But that's in every sector at the same time. I don't wish unemployment on anybody, but I do very much sympathise with what Tim Gurner said.
As someone who has observed younger Australians for the past few years, I've got to say that the idea that come 5 o'clock it's immediately switched to knock-off time, I find that annoying. Work should be stimulating to the point where you don't mind staying around a bit longer, after your official shift has ended.
And it was very much just a 9 to 5. Okay, assuming someone works from 9 to 5, and I don't think you should be relying on staff to work a whole bunch of extra unpaid hours.
No, that's right. Yeah.
I'm in financial services where people tend to get rewarded on outperformance in portfolios. So there's no. We also do have a contracted working week, contracted working hours, because that everyone needs to know what the minimum has to be. So it was more like, once upon a time, my first businesses, I would have worked 80, 90 hours a week. But I had no kids. Now I have kids and I want to go home. So I do understand the desire to get home. And I also think there has to be a break between work and home. That's actually very important. Otherwise, after a while, you will burn that person out, and that's not a really good relationship to be in, employer to employee. A lot of clever employers these days make their offices look like homes, don't they? Yeah, look at I've got a. Yeah, they do, and they pad it out with a lot of lollies and fruit and bean bags and other bits and pieces. I worked at Google for a year in 0809, and honestly, if you want to see pampered employees, holy hell, pampered employee. So, but that company had more money than God. It can do what it wanted to do. So when you're really rich, you can do dumb things. So that the rest of the economy is not Google. Yeah, that's probably the issue. So there's a lot of very successful companies, and it's great. And we have some in Australia, the Canvas, Atlassians, etc. And they set a nice beacon of a standard. But maybe it's nice to be an aspiration to work towards. But at times, you just have to be productive. At the end of the day, the business has to make money. The shareholders have to get a return, so they reinvest in the business and grow the business. So there needs to be a more mature, well-rounded approach, I think, from everyone, from employees through to management. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, young Australians these days are encouraged to seek employment in fields that match their values. This has been going on for probably a couple of decades now. I mean, you said a minute ago, you've got to turn up to work knowing that the company has to make money. Well, that's not the mindset of young people these days, is it?
The young people should be getting, I think made the point, the young people should be getting an education that's desirable to their employer, not just one they want. Because let's face it, we all want to do some pretty crazy stuff, right? But if no one wants to pay to do it, then it's a hobby, all right? So, but I just want to make the point. So I think there's a wider issue here, and we keep talking about employees, and I don't think that's 100% materially fair. We haven't, as a society, experienced a recession for almost 3 decades now, Fred.
Yep.
I definitely remember. I remember 16-17% interest rates, but I was saving at the time, so I was pretty happy with that, to be honest. So, but for those who actually had a housing loan at the time, it was a bloody disaster, right? So in general, we haven't had that brush fire through the economy that forces us to make hard decisions. And what we're talking about here is essentially hard times in the employment market and the labour market, allowing people to toughen up and make hard decisions and really dial down to what matters. We haven't had that at the top of the economy. and it hasn't filtered through to the rest of the economy at the same time. So, we are making very poor decisions. We've just got to see our debt load done and how bad our decisions are.